Yo guys, welcome to Ashton Fitness. Today I'm honored to be joined by Nic Alvanis. He is the ISF Open World Calisthenics Champion. He is also the ex-president of the Exeter Calisthenics Society. He also recently won a 2v2 battle with his brother Demi, and he is interestingly part of a triplet, and it's him, Demi, and remind me of your brothers, Alex. Yes. Alex, they are all beasts at calisthenics. They are unbelievable. Alex has got one-arm handstands on the Bosu ball, flipping Demi. He's got planches for days. Nic's got planches for days. It's unbelievable. So super happy to have you on my channel.
I'm privileged to be here, bro. Honestly, you done me well there, man.
I've got to glaze you, bruv, because yeah, you've been killing it. And you are literally one of the most incredible calisthenics athletes in the UK scene, both from a physical perspective, but also from a mental perspective. So I'm actually really, really happy just to have you on the channel so that everyone can see the way that you think about calisthenics and the way that you approach it and your own philosophy, because I genuinely rate you as one of the top calisthenics influencers in the UK. So very excited to have you on.
Man. Yeah, I'm really excited to get into it.
I've got some questions for you.
Let's go.
Obviously you have achieved an insane level of calisthenics ability, ISF Open World Champion, everything else. What got you into calisthenics in the first place? What's your story?
So when I was 14, I was really small as a kid, and our family's quite small. We're all pretty naturally quite skinny, small frames, and so we couldn't use the gym. So when we tried to use the gym, people would kick us out of the gym and they say, you're too young to use it. So we thought, okay, well, what can we do to get in shape? And obviously the only thing we could really do is just work out from home, just do what we could with our body weight. So we did that, and then time passes. A few months down the line, we're old enough to join the gym. We get into the gym, but we realize actually we like what we're doing, and we're also just starting to work towards some skills as well, which is obviously a really cool part about calisthenics, which is what your channel is about as well. And yeah, we just stuck with it eventually, and just found a passion for it. To be fair, Alex actually joined 6 years later. So Demi and I started together when we were 14, and Alex started a couple years back.
Flipping hell, that's crazy, because he was he the first one out of all of you to get the one-arm handstand?
Ooh, no, not the first one. Demi got it first, but
okay.
to the level that he's got it at, yeah, by far. I mean, Alex is insane at one arms.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy that he started later and then just suddenly became the literal one-arm handstand god. And it's crazy that you were getting kicked out of the gym, because when I started gym, we were really lucky because we had a gym in our school, and this was actually before I started doing calisthenics properly. And we used to have this Royal Marine. He was nuts, and he used to manage all the really bad kids in our school. Sometimes if a kid was acting up, he'd literally come into the classroom, boot down the door, and he'd be wearing boots, and he'd come in with his big American self and be like, "Yo, sort it out," and then just grips them off. So we used to be let into this gym by this guy, and he would come every lunchtime. So we got a real advantage. We got really lucky with that. But to be kicked out of gyms and did that not put you off? Why did you want to stick on it?
The thing is when you're a kid, when someone says you don't do something, what do you want to do? You want to keep doing it. So it didn't really put us off. But I think, to be fair, looking back on it, I do actually understand from a health and safety point of view why the school would be like, hey, we don't want you doing that.
Yeah.
But it was actually mad. The bar that we used to do muscle-ups on, we went back after one summer, and the bar, they'd moved it so the bar was higher up, so there was no ceiling space to do muscle-ups.
Oh my God.
I know, it's peak. But yeah, I mean, it is surprising because these days, calisthenics is trending. You'd never see that nowadays. People do endorse it now a lot more than before. So definitely interesting to compare experiences. I mean, what about you and your experience? Do you think people in your school were supportive of it, or was this Royal Marine supportive of it? I mean,
he was very supportive of it. Yeah, he was very supportive of it. And shouts out to him, because I don't even know if we would even be into working out as much as we are if it wasn't for him. I'd love to go back and say thank you to him, because genuinely, he used to come every lunchtime. And this was back before, to be fair, I doubt a teacher would have a WhatsApp group with a bunch of kids that would look a bit mad. But this was before WhatsApp. And obviously, we used to just turn up at the gym and just hope that he would come. Sometimes he just didn't turn up, so we're like, all right, well, I guess we're not doing gym today. But he was super supportive of it. It kind of kickstarted our gym careers.
See, that's a crazy experience. I wish I had that experience, mate. I wish I had that experience. But yeah, we still got here. Obviously, I was lucky to have my brothers around me, and also my best friend. Having those people around you obviously is so important. But yeah, would have been better to have the teachers on our side as well. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I mean, swings and roundabouts, because at least you still had people around you. I feel especially at the beginning, that's a good one. It helps you to stick with your training, because if you're just doing it solo, to be honest, you can do it in any way. Like even if you are starting solo, it's great because you can really lock in. But if you've got people around you and like you're all figuring things out together, then it's actually quite fun. It was like that when I first started calisthenics as well. I started in gym before I was kind of really doing calisthenics, but I kind of started in my bedroom like you did. And then slowly, like I started getting more introduced to like gym, and then that kind of took over. And then eventually like I saw the Hannibal for King video and I was like, this is actually sick. Like I want to do this. And then, yeah. And then eventually like I was just like trying to do all the stuff that he was doing in the video. And I actually managed to unlock some of those skills like later on down the line. So I was really happy about that. But yeah, that was really what got me into calisthenics. I was also skinny as well, like super skinny, to the point where I remember one time I was sat at the dinner table with my stepmom, and this was actually one of those things that really actually encouraged me to start training, because she looked at me and it was kind of like this almost like look of disgust. It was peak. I was like, raw. And then she was like, oh, like, you look really skinny. Have you been eating properly? And I was so taken aback with just how like confrontational it was in the moment. And this makes her sound like terrible. She's actually really nice, but like it came out of nowhere. It just blindsided me. I was like, rah. And then I started deep in my forearms and started deep in my bicep brachii. And I was like, hang on, I actually am quite skinny.
The mother's comments can go a long way. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Parents' comments, like, geez, they cut deep.
Was there a moment where you really fell in love with it? Like, was it after you started the gym and were doing the calisthenics exercises in the gym, or was it as early as when you just started doing it in your bedroom and you were like, holy, like, rah, I'm holding a plank, like this feels sick, or like, oh, I'm trying to handstand and I can't quite get it, but I've nearly got it and that feels sick. Like, was there a moment where you fell in love with it?
No, I think that's a really interesting question. I think there's something to be said about the uniqueness of the sport, which really kind of made me fall in love with it. So I think if I had to recall a particular moment, it would definitely be when I got a skill, because, you know, especially as a young kid, you know, you're looking for an identity. And as a triplet, we already stuck out like sore thumbs, you know, and we did get picked on as kids.
Bro.
Not to make this a sob story, right? But
why?
But what do you mean?
Why? Like, why'd you get picked on?
Just because we were triplets, just because we stuck out already. I mean, we had those wheelie bags in school, which was obviously...
What bags?
Those wheelie bags.
Oh, I thought you said willy bags. I was like, yeah, that's why you're getting picked on.
Mate, that's a flex if you've got a wheelie bag, mate. I don't even know what that is.
A willy bag? You got a dong so big, you have to carry it in your own rucksack.
Oh man, but we had these suitcase bags, and they would, like, people would call us like Heathrow, Luton and Gatwick, because we'd have like different suitcases. So our mum did us dirty there, I can't lie. But yeah, no, just, you know,
we used to call you Heathrow, Luton and Gatwick.
Bro, honestly, it was kind of funny, I can't lie.
The creativity, I'm sorry I'm laughing, because it must have been peak at the time, but the creativity is so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry.
No, so I was saying, so yeah, we obviously stuck out already and we did get picked on, but I think that's kind of why we wanted to forge our own path in different ways. So as soon as we realized, okay, hold on, if I can do this skill, then, you know, I'm a little bit different here. Not that I'm, you know, not different enough, but yeah, obviously that, you know, it's not the healthiest of places, that kind of motivation. So that did quickly fade away. And I would say that the second kind of point in my life when I really fell in love with it would definitely be when I started competing. Obviously winning is a great feeling. And then I would say, not to kind of ramble, but there was definitely a third point when I fell in love with it again, which is recently, because, you know, of course, you get your identity, you unlock the moves in calisthenics, you compete, you reach a high level. What happens after that? So yeah, we'll get into that. But yeah, I definitely fell in love with it quite recently again, starting my business. Actually.
Yeah. And you say we'll get into that. No time like the present. Might as well get into it now.
Yeah, man, for sure. So yeah, no, I guess, so a few years ago, I had kind of achieved what I wanted to achieve competitively. I'd won the ISF like World Champs competition, and yeah, kind of done what I wanted to do in the competitive space. Retired at the ripe age of 21. But yeah, I kind of fell out of love at that point because I just didn't really feel motivated anymore. But then I was reminded of the roots of the sport and kind of and how natural it is through a different hobby, which was dancing. So I got into dancing while I was kind of taking a step back from Cali. But in doing so, I realized how much of an amazing footing Cali had given me in the dance world, because I'd achieved so much body movement. I found it easy to pick up stuff, and I was realizing, hold on, I've actually got a really like good grip and understanding of my body. And it, like, you know, I'm saying it now like it was shocking at the time because it genuinely was. Like you'd think that I might have realized that doing planches at 14, you know what I mean? But yeah, for me, I hadn't appreciated it in that way because I was a young kid, as I said, just trying to bust out moves and, you know, do handstands and whatnot. So yeah, I connected with it again on that front, and I was really enjoying just, you know, peaceful sessions outdoors, just moving freely without kind of any constriction. And yeah, that's kind of the third point I'd say that I really fell in love with calisthenics again. Wow, it's really interesting to hear that it had such a impact on your dancing as well. Like I would never have guessed that. Like how did it specifically, like how did it help? You know, I can demo, bro. Go on. No, but like, okay, so actually some very interesting concepts. So in calisthenics there's obviously protraction and retraction, right? Okay. So we've got protraction where we kind of push our shoulder blades apart, resemble this like turtle back shape. Yeah. And retraction is where we push our shoulder blades together like this. Our chest is proud, kind of like slightly more arched back. And in dancing, there are a few moves. Well, you use a lot of that like kind of scapular engagement. For example, there's this move in bachata when your chest goes like this, like that. And retraction and protraction going on. Yeah, exactly. So I was in the lesson and they were teaching us how to do this, and I was just thinking, mate, that's just protraction and retraction, and no one was explaining it like that. To be fair, I feel like that would have taken like because it's quite a romantic kind of dance form, so if they just start describing it with like pure medical anatomy terms, it's probably going to be kind of like, wow, what the fuck? No, but yeah, I mean, there's so many other concepts like there's elevation, depression, these shoulder shrug type movements. But yeah, there's huge crossovers, like it's a huge rabbit hole, to be fair. So yeah, tons of crossover. That's insane. I genuinely would never have even thought that there was any crossover, but it does make a lot of sense because it's like there are so many ways that I know people talk about like functional strength and all this kind of stuff, and that's a real buzzword like nowadays, especially like people want to be more functional than ever. I feel like there's, especially within the fitness community and just the general zeitgeist of what people want, like I do feel like there's been more of a shift towards like conscious movement and movement that's more kind of intentional and functional. And I feel like with things like this is one of those really unexpected benefits of doing something like calisthenics, where you get this real functional crossover into something as unrelated as dance, which is crazy. Like no one would ever have foreseen that. What other areas of your life have improved as a result of doing calisthenics? So yeah, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, definitely the dopamine element to it. So everyone will know who trains calisthenics is very difficult to achieve a few moves, and they take a lot of time to get. So for example, one arm handstand took me 3 years to get like a proper good hold. Crazy long. Crazy stuff. But yeah, so definitely patience, and that hard work pays off. And obviously in this kind of increasingly digitalized era with, you know, short attention spans, that's a very important trait to have, you know, some control over your dopamine. But actually, I don't know what you think of this, so I'm interested to pick your brain on this, but some people would argue, kind of me actually, my alternative theory, that by doing calisthenics and attempting loads of skills all the time, you are actually engaging in those micro kind of bursts of dopamine. So for example, when I was 14 training calisthenics and busting out attempts all the time, greasing the groove, am I really delaying the dopamine gratification, like delayed gratification? Am I really doing that or not? I think that completely depends on your baseline level of excitement when it comes to just performing those calisthenics moves, because you're super into it and you've always been into it. Like obviously we follow each other on Instagram and I see you training at like crazy hours of the night, like, and you'll only do that if you're as into it as you are. Like no one's training planches at 2 a.m. like unless they really love it. So I think your baseline level of enjoyment of calisthenics is enough to give you that dopamine boost, even if you are just doing like a planche on the floor, like a leaning planche on the floor, or anything, any other like push-ups or anything else. Like you will genuinely get so much dopamine and enjoyment out of that, whereas maybe someone else who doesn't love it as much or is still finding their feet, they might not like, because for beginners a lot of these skills are quite hard, so it might be kind of almost frustrating. So maybe they're not getting that dopamine boost straight off the bat like you might be, because at the same time like they're still trying to find their way with it. So I think it depends on the person. I totally agree with you, bro. I think because I really like discovered that when I was doing the one-arm handstand, because that was the first move where I was like, nah, I don't want to train this move. Like, it's planche, I
remember you were going through it with that one. Like, I was so glad to see you get it, because like the process, like what was the process like? Because I know it was arduous.
Yeah, no, it's horrible, especially with balance-based moves. The thing is like I don't know how to describe it, but the kind of graph of progression is really, it just fluctuates a lot. So it's not linear at all. So, you know, one day you could have your best hold, and the next day you could have your worst. And it kind of like over time goes up like this. And that's just extremely frustrating. Like, at least with strength stuff, you can see a general like lineage, but with balance-based moves, just completely just random, you know? So yeah, it was difficult. In answer to your question, there were some days when I'd be really good, even periods of time, like 3 months, that I'd be, you know, popping off, and then, you know, for the next 6 months, I wouldn't get a 2-second hold. And it's like, okay. I was gonna ask you, off the back of what you said, how do you think your relationship has changed with calisthenics? Like what, because you asked me about how I kind of appreciate it now, and, you know, I just kind of described why it's important to me now.
Yeah.
But would you say your journey was different in the sense that, like, firstly, from a perspective of were some moves more difficult to get? Did you like feel like you had that kind of motivation and dopamine hit? And also kind of how do you appreciate it now?
Do you know what? I'll actually describe the entire timeline. I'll try and keep it brief. But basically, when I started, it was just, I was finding my feet, and I was really actually kind of discouraged at the beginning, because I was in my room trying to do push-ups. I couldn't even do 10. Like, I could probably do about 5 to 7. And then after that, I'm struggling. And then there's that kind of internal thought, because my brother, he's like super into fitness and super into gym. And I used to see him every day. He's older than me by 5 years. And I used to see him every day on our landing doing sit-ups and push-ups, and he would do 100 every single day. So in my head, when I couldn't even do 10, I was like, bruv, you're weak. Like, I was beating myself up. And it was really frustrating at the start, but it was like, it was good that I felt that way, because it actually kicked me into gear. And I was like, actually, you're so weak, you actually need to fix up. Like, sometimes you just gotta G-check yourself like that, because it's like, how else are you gonna improve? Like, you can't just be like, oh, it's all right. It's like, no, bruv, you're weak. Like, you can't even do 10. And of course, everyone has different starting points. And from my perspective nowadays, I wouldn't tell someone you're weak if you can't do 10 push-ups. But that's how I spoke to myself at the time. So obviously you can see the evolution already, but that's how I started off. And then from there, then it was kind of very solo. And then like I was just trying to kind of like find my feet, and I was just getting good at like push-ups and sit-ups really, and like leg raises and that. And then I started going to like block workout. Do you remember that? That was
rings a bell.
Yeah, it was Terrell Lewis, and he organized all of it. And yeah, he used to do he used to do these community sessions where it was originally intended for like, it was kind of, the angle was to get kind of kids off the street doing something more productive and more valuable with their time, rather than like going off and, I don't know, robbing or punching people up or whatever. Like, it was like a positive thing. It was like, yeah, like, we're all from the block, we're all from South London, we're all from like these kind of areas that society would say are lower class areas or whatever, but we're all getting together for this positive thing to build each other up and to build ourselves up. And I started getting involved in those classes, and they were sick. Like, they revolutionized my entire concept of calisthenics and what it could be, because then it became more community focused. And then I was like, okay, up until now I've just been soloing the thing, but now there's actually a real community benefit to being able to do this with other people. And that was also when I experienced another paradigm shift, where I was like, okay, I need to really step up my training, because I'll never forget it. We did this 10-to-1 circuit where we're doing 10 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 10 dips, 9 pull-ups, 9 push-ups, 9 dips, all the way down to 1. Yeah, all the way down to 1. Wow. And I remember the first time I did it with the block workout lock, I was whack, and like I was one of the last to finish, like, and I was like, but again, like, I had to do that internal G-check, and I was like, you were one of the last to finish. Next time you do this, you better be one of the first to finish. So I went away back on my solo endeavor, trained up, and then eventually came back to the block workout sessions. And then I was actually the third person to finish after I'd done all that solo training. The only 2 people who were above me were the 2 trainers. So technically, out of everyone else who was just working out, like, and who wasn't like, their sole focus wasn't to train the rest of the group, like, I was actually at the top of it. So that really gave me a lot of confidence. And then after that, like, yeah, it became much more community focused. And then after that,
you founded the
founded the Exeter Calisthenics Society.
That's what fit into that. Would you say, like, that experience with the community?
100%.
Yeah,
100%. And then my goal became more like, okay, cool. Like, I know how great this has made me feel. I want to be able to impart that to other people and like help them feel really great through calisthenics. So that's why I started up the society and then built that up. And there's a whole story behind that, but I've been waffling. But anyway, I built that up. I built that up. And it's funny because, do you know what? As I was building that up, it was a proper ghetto like approach, because I went to the Exeter Calisthenics Guild and they were basically saying, they rejected it because they were saying that it's too similar to the yoga society. Bun you lot, I know it's not similar to yoga. I mean, technically it is, but at the same time, it's not.
It's not.
So it's like, I was like, bun you lot, I'm gonna do it anyway. So then I just started flyering outside of I didn't even have a stool, because all the other societies, they had stools, they had like really nice banners and everything. I was just outside, ghetto, on my ones, outside of the forum, flyering. I printed off the flyers myself. And I was just like, I designed them myself. I was like, Calisthenics Society, just drumming up interest. I did like the plank competition where I got people to hold a plank for as long as they could.
Gave a prize there.
Genius idea. I had there was a t-shirt up for grabs for the longest plank. And it was a genius idea because it attracted so many people, because like when you got someone holding the plank for like over 5 minutes, suddenly crowds, and they're like, what's going on here? And then I'm handing out flyers. Yeah. So that's how I built it up. First day, the turnout was amazing. It was a beautiful sunny day as well, which was ideal because it was all outside. And then, then that really cemented it in my brain as like, this is what it's about now. Like, it's no longer just the solo thing. Yeah. It's about building up everyone else.
That being said, how does that kind of manifest now for you? Because, you know, like, obviously you've got your housemates you train with, right? Like every now and then, but I'm not sure, like, are you in a particular community now? Or?
That's why I started my YouTube channel, because I was like, okay, cool. Well, if I can make this many people in my immediate community in university feel this great, I can do that on a worldwide scale through YouTube. And then I was like, okay, cool. Well, I can actually help people get fit and learn these cool calisthenics skills that made me and this community feel so good. So that's why I want to be on YouTube. So that's why I started. And then I've just been building it up. Now I'm in a position where I can directly, wherever anyone is in the world, I can directly help them and be like, right, I know how good this has made me feel. I know how good this has made my immediate community feel, how good it's made people all over the world feel through YouTube. Now I'm going to be able to help you directly. So that is the next evolution of it. And that is a very long way to answer your question, like how my perceptions of calisthenics have kind of changed over the years.
So interesting, bro. I have so much to say, because what you said about the community, bro, is just so true. I think a lot of people stay with calisthenics because of that element. There was actually an article I read a few weeks back which stated that, you know, training clubs are the new thing. Like, forget rug clubs. Now is the era of training clubs. And I think that's incredibly true. I mean, yeah, what you built in Exeter was crazy, man. And I think it's honestly, it's a form of thought leadership, man. And it's just pure passion as well. Like, it reminded me of, so when I was a kid, we actually created a petition in my secondary school to get a bar in place, and we go hanging around just trying to get signatures. In fact, we got like 200 signatures from the year above as well, and they still didn't put a bar in place. Yeah, it was peak.
Haters, man.
Yeah, but like, it's crazy how, you know, we knew this shit would take off, and we knew that that's how much we loved it and how much we want to share it. Like, my mum makes jokes that I'm evangelical about calisthenics, and you know, that's music to my ears, man. Like, I hope I am, man.
You are one of the most on it people in the UK, like, actually, and I rate it so highly because you have to be to do what you're doing. But continue.
No, thank you, bro. Appreciate it. But yeah, that's, you know, on the same note, obviously, you know, taking over in Exeter was a privilege, and it was a wonderful experience, which literally prompted the Cali Academy, which is an organization I run, if anyone doesn't know. Goo gaga. So no, I do want to quickly add, so obviously, you know, you founded Exeter Society, and you mentioned going to the guild and then not recognizing it. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to touch on the topic of calisthenics just not being recognized, because we both have these kind of experiences of really trying to share and be thought leaders in the space and you know, be evangelical about calisthenics, but that wasn't received well at all, and it's only now that it's being received well.
Yeah.
And I think, firstly, it says a lot about, I think, us as people and our passion for calisthenics, but secondly, it also highlights the issue right now with calisthenics, which is this endless loop of the sport not being recognized, because there is no actual NGB for calisthenics, for those who don't know. So calisthenics is not a recognized sport in the UK, and there's no certification either. And so when you went to the guild, obviously, which is the kind of student group who manage Exeter University, who get to say if something's a society, because some people won't know what a guild is.
Yeah.
They get to decide if something's a society, but when you go to them and try and pitch it, obviously, yeah, they're going to say, you know, it's like yoga, it's like this. And I think a lot of people don't understand, who come into the scene now, just how much work it's taken to get the sport to where it is now and get the recognition it deserves. It's a crazy journey.
I got so much to say about this.
Yeah, man.
Bruv, it's mad how calisthenics has evolved, because I know, and it's going to be interesting to hear what you think about this, because of course it has evolved and it's become more recognized now. And I do believe that it's much more recognized than it's ever been. And even though it's still not an official sport, it's still very recognized. But back in the day when we were like pushing it, it was not recognized at all. In fact, there was a period of time, I distinctly remember it, where you'd be clowned for doing calisthenics. Like people used to clown you. Like they would be like, oh, look at this chump on the bar doing all of this fancy, like what are you doing? Like this just skinny little twerp. Like you got clowned for doing it. And it was like a meme on social media if you're doing calisthenics. And we were still doing it regardless. This was also back when people didn't know what calisthenics was, when people would call it calisthetics, when...
Calisthenics.
Yep. Sounds like some Bionicle's name. Like people would be, you'd say, oh yeah, I'm doing this thing called calisthenics. People would look at you like, what are you talking about? Like, it sounds like you're casting a spell on them. And people genuinely didn't rate it / didn't know about it. So, but we were so invested in it and so passionate about it that we didn't care. And we were trying to spread the word. Like, I guess that kind of ties into the evangelical word. Like, we were kind of spreading the word as if we were kind of like evangelists. Like, hear the legend of calisthenics. Like, we were literally that. And eventually, over time, then it became more and more mainstream, to the point where now you're seeing it in like Nike adverts and stuff like that. Back then you weren't seeing that. Like, it wasn't recognized. So I do think that it is a lot more recognized now. But especially at the beginning, it was much more of a grind, like especially to get it recognized by the guild. It's definitely become more mainstream now, I think. But it's changed a lot.
Yeah, completely, man. I mean, just to touch on that even more, like, although it's a society now, it's still not a recognized sports club. There are still steps to be made. And well, I mean, I guess that's a lot of obviously what the work I do now is. I'm much more on the business front of Cali than I am an athlete. And I prefer that because I feel like my impact is much bigger. So I really enjoy that. But yeah, there's lots of work to be done. I mean, you know, the university leagues, Bucks, require that a sport is recognized and has an NGB to be able to enter in the university leagues, right? And, you know, if you want to coach Cali at a gym, sometimes a level 3 PT isn't enough. But then again, there's no calisthenics course. But there can't be a calisthenics course because there's no NGB.
Yeah.
So it's like, hold on a sec, we're going in circles here.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's, you know, it's definitely come a long way though. And I think that's the, you know, definitely the positive parts to take from it. And I'm really happy with how far it's gone, and props to all the kind of other influencers and athletes who've pushed it. I mean, it's no joke. It's clearly so many evangelists out there on their own solo journeys, just pushing the sport. And yeah, it's in a great position now. As you said, big brands picking up on it, commercially just booming.
Yeah, and I couldn't have foreseen that when I first started. Like, it was so underground. Like, it was actually ghetto. It all started in those ghetto parks in America with those henched off, flipping shredded off black guys, just like banging out loads of reps, like Hannibal for King, like all the other legendary guys, like the bartenders, the bar stars. Like, it was ghetto back then. To see how it's become so much more relevant, like even culturally relevant as well. Like, it's become, because it's now part of that whole people wanting to do the functional movement side of things now. Like, it's a lot more culturally relevant now. So it's very cool to see its evolution. I was actually going to ask you, I was going to save this towards the end, but since we're on this now, where do you see it going? Because I think from what you're saying, I think because you're more invested in the business side of things now, and I'll assume, but correct me if I'm wrong, you're more invested in kind of getting things more official, and you've already been setting up things like that. Like you've been helping out with the inter-university calisthenics with the, what was the name of the organization that you?
Cali Academy.
Cali Academy, exactly, yeah. So you've been setting all of that up. So you've been trying to make it more official.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's still a lot of work to do. Like, for example, a lot of the skills in calisthenics, they don't have official names. Like people just make shit up and make names up. Where do you see the future of calisthenics heading? Do you see it becoming more official, or do you see it, how do you see it evolving?
Yeah, so I think that's a really loaded question. It definitely largely depends on how it's spearheaded and who spearheads it. So obviously there are different avenues of calisthenics. There is freestyle calisthenics, there's street lifting, there's, you know, just bodyweight endurance. And I think, just speaking competitively, there is potential for me predominantly in the more objective avenues of calisthenics. So freestyle calisthenics is very hard to judge, and so many people draw parallels with gymnastics and struggle to codify it, like you already mentioned. So I don't see much of a future on that front with freestyle calisthenics. I think it's kind of resembles more of an X sport. But that being said, there have been sports that have come into the Olympics, you know, like breaking and skate GB, like new NGBs that were created literally just for the kind of use of the Olympics, and they made it there. So, you know, it remains to be seen. But what I would say is that I kind of view calisthenics' future more on a different sphere. And by that, I mean on the educational level. Like my goal is to get calisthenics in the educational curriculum. I think it would be cool to have it in PE classes, like with little kids.
That would be sick.
Yeah, do calisthenics. I think it really depends on, as I said, who spearheads it and how it's spearheaded, because really and truly it needs people with business knowledge to come in and take it by the horns and drive it. And obviously we've seen the commercial kind of element to it now. We've seen big brands like Nike and all these brands kind of hopping on, which really points towards a good future. But it just depends, I think, on how we can officialize it. Because if there is indeed a way to codify it and recognize it, maybe there's a competitive future there. But if not, perhaps it will have to be taken more down the wellness route. I mean, StrengthFlow, which is the coaching business I run, we are kind of more in that wellness domain, and we've taken calisthenics and tried to kind of merge it with that polish that the wellness space brings and give it kind of a different perspective completely, which is not a way that it's been like taken before. And obviously Nike and Adidas have gone more down that urban route. They've kind of gone down that, they you know, using the calisthenics kind of London vibe, which is different, you know, it's different markets. So I guess, yeah, I think it could be taken in just so many ways.
Yeah.
But one thing that I think, is timeless though, that will not change, is the training club nature of it. And that's because AI is taking over the world right now. And you spoke yourself about the importance of community to you and to lots of people actually. I mean, even on my coaching, the most important facet to it is always a community element over the actual coaching most of the time. It's like, as soon as I mention community, people's faces light up. So I think that if there's any future for Cali that is certain, in my opinion, is definitely the training club aspect to it. And you know, calisthenics being the foundation of all movement, for me, it's difficult to see that going out of fashion, especially because of its integration in so many other sports, boxing, you know, football, everything. So I think once people kind of just realize that, then it's going to be in a great position.
You're totally right about it depends on who spearheads how we move forward, because I'm sure maybe to the freestyle calisthenics guys, I imagine they probably envisaged the future of calisthenics to be like, okay, how technical can we get the freestyle calisthenics? How clean can we get it? In that sense, of course, it would really benefit from kind of making things a bit more official with like removing some of that subjective judging and that subjective bias from it by making things a bit more official. But then does it turn more into like gymnastics at that point? Yeah. Because then it's like, then you're graded on how straight your body alignment is and how pointed your toes are or whatever else they grade in gymnastics. And then you have like set skills that you've got to do and all that kind of stuff. So then does it turn into gymnastics, and then does it lose its identity as calisthenics if it turns into this more official thing that's basically gymnastics? And then will people just go, well, we've already got gymnastics, so what's this? Like, how do you see that evolving?
Yeah, no, so I completely, I've thought about this too completely, and you're right, if it gets too refined and is too objective, then it's just going to be gymnastics. And I think it just goes back to the question, what makes calisthenics calisthenics? And my answer to that is the flair. the flair to calisthenics. That's the goosebump feeling you get when you see people do combos on the bar and add their own twist to it. For me, it's an art form. It's literally an art form. And I think that's why, the Cali Academy, we actually formulated a judging system with the intention primarily to preserve that combination of flair, but equally like allow people to be technically advanced and do some crazy shit and kind of satisfy both. And I think as you said, like a balance may not be possible, and that's why I kind of mentioned perhaps it's better as an export. Perhaps we just need to accept, you know what, this is better kind of like outside of that realm of the Olympics, and better just kind of viewed as like as an art form almost, or just maybe it's just as a fitness discipline, you know, almost like Pilates, high rocks. Maybe it's better like that, but yeah, I really see it as more than that. Like you said, that kind of that creativity to it is so integral, and the more you try to codify something, the more you strip it down. So it takes a really nuanced approach. And I mean, with the Cali Academy, what we did was we created a point system that rewarded technical ability, but also had a small category around flair and creativity. But even that obviously is subjective. But because of its weighting, it wasn't as significant. So yeah, we broke it down like that, so that we weren't limiting people, so they're not just doing, wide sat front lever pull-ups or like just spamming planche push-ups, and kind of doing heartless combos. Because I'm sure we've all seen online, some calisthenics beasts doing, loads of front lever pull-ups and into planche, doing loads like in their bedrooms, for example, or kind of like somewhere just boring like a gym. But when I grew up with calisthenics, what I used to see were people like Daniel Lazans and Melnick going out, in London or something, or doing like a planche on like on like a cool railing or something, or like a cool backdrop, or with just an artistic element, or like some cool video edits. Now you get obviously the funk edits with like some like some reactions, or which I'm not opposed to, by the way. I'm not saying I'm not opposed to that, but it's just different style of stuff, I think. So long-winded answer there, but I think it comes back to what is calisthenics.
That's a very good question. And that kind of, what is calisthenics? Seriously, like actually, because from the jump, when you tell people I do calisthenics, then they go, what's that? If they haven't heard of it. And then you go, it's always been a bit kind of hard to define in a way. It's always been like, oh, well, it's like body weight movement, but it's a bit like gymnastics, but it's also just, what is it? Like, it's kind of hard to define. And obviously in our positions, it's easier for us to define because we've been doing it for so long. But at the same time, just even from a pure definition level, like it's kind of hard to define what it is. I think Google defines it as like the kind of grace of movement or grace of bodily control or whatever, however it describes it. But it's always been kind of from the jump kind of difficult to pin down what calisthenics actually is, but then also how it's evolved over the years from that really ghetto kind of activity where it was kind of just like black guys in parts in America just working out and like forming that community, but how it's evolved now into this more mainstream thing. Like, is calisthenics still the same thing? Because it's kind of like, if we go back to the aura farming, that wasn't a thing back then. Like, it was all about getting your reps in, working out, digging deep, being part of a community if you had access to that community, like how those guys in America did. And it was really this kind of like very intrinsic mind-body connection type of exercise that was very different to gym, in the sense that gym was a lot more superficial and a lot more focused on your aesthetics, whereas calisthenics was about a lot more what you could achieve and you connecting with your body on that deeper level to unlock these skills that take years to unlock. I feel like with the shift to these kind of like aura farming clips, where it's now become a lot more egotistical, a lot more kind of self-centered, oh, let me do like this crazy planche in the middle of the gym and then let me like get people's reactions and clip them into the final video, and like it's become a lot more kind of that in a way as well. So again, what is calisthenics? Is it that now? Like, because that's the kind of content that's blown up right now. Like, that's really like the dominant kind of content that you see. That's all the stuff that's going viral. So is that calisthenics now? Or is it still, I don't think it's still what it was at its root, but maybe in certain pockets, maybe it is. I don't know.
See, oh man, this is so interesting. That's why I referenced the third time where like I fell in love with calisthenics as being so different to that first time. And bro, honestly, it's literally the reason why we created StrengthFlow, because calisthenics, in my opinion, as a word, like the definition has now strayed so far from what I think of the sport as, that it doesn't encapsulate what's important to me anymore. Like, as you said, when you think of Cali, you think of these cool moves. Maybe you might even think, some people think of just walking or jumping, because it's just body weight movement. But does that word encapsulate the aura farming, those type of videos, but also the really nice flair and the creativity, or the kind of the natural element to it, the peace you feel while doing it? Does the work calisthenics encapsulate that now when you think of it and when you see it online? My opinion is no. And that's why we decided in the end to stop working with the work calisthenics ultimately. I mean, we use a calisthenics-based approach in our coaching, but like my philosophy is totally based around what I find important about calisthenics now, which I believe is not as talked about or illustrated in content these days, personally.
And what is that philosophy?
That's StrengthFlow. Yeah, this is StrengthFlow philosophy. So the StrengthFlow philosophy is the combination of two pillars of training: strength and flow. And strength is raw power, and flow is creative movement. And we believe that the combination of these two elements together create a holistic, fulfilling experience for anyone engaging in it. And there is also a huge emphasis on the creativity aspect with StrengthFlow. So we care a lot about exploring our movement and our different capacities and seeing kind of where our limits are. But yeah, I think StrengthFlow, like, to put it bluntly, encapsulates that flair and that sustainable, natural element to Cali, which I feel like is being lost in this storm of content and, hyper competitive athletes, which for me doesn't represent why I love Cali. Just to put it simply. So yeah.
And it's funny because there is a place for it. Like, there is a place for all of these insane skills, because technically that is what gets people into it anyway. It's kind of a bit like I'm not going to veer off too much. I'm going to get back on track, but it's almost like the kind of steroids versus non-steroids. Like, you see when you're getting into like building up your physique, you see all these guys who you don't know are on steroids because they're telling you they're natural, like all these bodybuilders, and then you find out later on down the line that they are on steroids, and you're like, but I will never look like them. But you got into getting fitter because they were telling you, at least indirectly, that you could look like them. So it's like, is it a bad thing that happened, or is it a good thing? Same with the calisthenics. It's like, is it a bad thing that these guys are doing all these aura farming clips? That will also get people into calisthenics as well. Like, they'll see guys like Onizuka banging out front lever pull-ups. They'll be like, I want to learn that. But then again, like you said, the essence of why we personally got into it, and I sound a bit like an old head because I'm like, oh yeah, it was better back in the day, but at the same time, the real reason why I love calisthenics so much is because it's such an incredible way to connect with yourself, and you really get so much out of it. Like we were talking about earlier with the other life benefits that you get out of calisthenics, like through that locking in with yourself, through that mind muscle connection, through that complete perseverance that you need to have in order to achieve all these calisthenic skills. And you need to just be drilling them for so many years, so long, and against like all the frustration that you encounter. It translates into so many different areas of your life. Like in your career, like you'll be so much more resilient because you know that these setbacks are just part of the process. Like in calisthenics, where you'll, like you said earlier, you'll have some weeks where you're holding the one arm handstand for 2 seconds, and the other weeks you can't hold it at all. And it's like in your career, you'll encounter setbacks, but again, you've built up this resilience through this bodyweight training, through calisthenics, where you can actually withstand that, so you can progress even further in like your career, in your relationships, in your, and I'm not talking just like romantic, but also with other people. And it's like, it will bring you closer together with other people because you're working out in these communities, and that's beautiful. Like, and again, that's what's lost with all of the aura farming stuff, because it's like, it's so just self-centered. And I'm not casting judgment, because again, I find it very impressive, and I think it's very cool that these people can do it, but it's much more ego focused. It's much more focused on the individual. Look what I can do, rather than look what we can do as a group. Look how we can lift each other up. Look how we can progress together. Like, that's the side of calisthenics that made me fall in love with calisthenics. So it's interesting.
Go. So this is the thing, like, as you said, we can't cast judgment on that, because ultimately that is also bringing views to the sport, that is progressing the sport.
Exactly.
You know, we wouldn't have these brand deals if it wasn't for those type of videos.
Exactly.
We wouldn't be having that. We wouldn't have this commercial attention. But I think it's like you said, it's just about staying true to what you believe in and being authentic. And honestly, I have respect to anyone who does anything with Cali. Like I have close friends and relatives, and including myself, who have done reaction videos before. I've done it.
I've done it.
Yeah, exactly. And I arguably, in my opinion, did it at a time where I was a little bit less confident in terms of what I actually wanted to post, because it's super easy to get a bit lost when you consume so much. You know, you actually need to sit down and ask yourself, okay, what do I actually want to be sharing here, right? You resonate with that, right?
Yep.
No, but on that note, I think all that's important is just staying true to what you believe in. But my question to you off the back of that is, what I've struggled with in the past is, how do you balance staying true to yourself and acting authentically and posting authentically with playing the game? Because you arguably need to stay up to date with the trends, and you need to be sometimes posting stuff that you might not want to post to get views. But sometimes if you only post what you want to post, it might not be trending, it might not get views, it might not get traffic. In some cases, it might not get leads, and therefore it might not make you a living. So it's like, okay, where do we draw the line in terms of staying true to ourselves, in terms of just what we like about calisthenics versus playing the game? It's a tricky debate, right?
That is a question. Because I've thought about this a lot. Literally, I ask myself this before every single time I upload anything, because I've kind of already from the jump, as soon as I started my YouTube channel, I was like, I'm not gonna shuck and jive like a lot of these other people out there. And my intention with my YouTube channel is genuinely to help people. And I feel like when your intention is pure like that from the jump, you're gonna approach the content in a specific way. And I always, no matter what the content is, it's always with the purest intention to help. That's literally the number one goal. But of course, then it gets more nuanced, because then it's like, well, obviously you want to increase your reach and you want to be able to help more people, but in order to get the reach, you've got to start playing the game. Because in order to get the reach, it's like, now you got to start doing all the aura farming clips, or now you got to start doing the clickbait, like, you won't believe this, calisthenics athletes lie to you every day. Like, I've experimented with this stuff. Like, I've made a video where I'm like, yeah, these fitness influencers are lying to you with the hook at the beginning and everything else.
I love that video, bro.
Thank you. But it's like, but again, I tried to make it as authentic to me as possible. And that's where I try and draw that distinction, because at the same time, we want to talk about AI, but people were being fake before AI anyway. So it's like, I really want to try and be as authentic as possible when I'm delivering my content, and have it be as true to me and my message and my purpose, which is to help people, as possible. Because to me, that's the ultimate goal. And I will actually, and I've sacrificed opportunities in order to make sure that I know that I am helping people, and I'm staying as pure to that intention as possible. Because it's like, for example, certain brands have reached out to me and they're like, oh yeah, we want you to advertise our product. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, I don't think that's in people's best interest, so I'm not going to advertise it. But again, I'm not playing the game then, because I know that if I play the game a bit more, I'll get more money and I'll get more coverage, and my content will be out there a little bit more. But I don't want to do that, because literally it's dead. It's dead. I want to make sure that I'm genuinely helping people. How I approach it when I'm kind of creating content is, nowadays I do a bit of a blend. I'll try some content where it's kind of a bit more like, okay, this is slightly playing the game a little bit more, let's see how this does, but it will still always be true to who I am. I'm never going to shuck and jive and be a completely different person. And then I'll make content that I actually want to make. But no matter what content I make, it will always be with the intention of helping. And that's how I kind of juggle it nowadays. I'm going to be upping my content so much more next year. It's ridiculous. And I'm going to be playing the game just a little bit more, just to see what happens. But it's always going to be rooted in who I am and my authenticity. And again, just being a positive influence, because there's so many negative influences out there on the internet. I feel like this is why I love what you're doing, because it's just like, it's balancing it out. because there's too much negativity out there. And like, I always want, whenever people come to my page or my website or whatever, to feel like they're in a cool place where it's positive, like a little island in the storm, in the middle of all the bullshit that's going on in the world, like little island, little Ashton Fitness fun island, little Nic fun island. Like, it's just positive and uplifting. And again, it comes back to what we were talking about the origin of calisthenics and uplifting everyone, not just yourself. It's like uplifting everyone together.
Bro, I respect that mindset so much, and I think it's clear with your content, and I'm excited to see what actually happens in Thailand now with your new content.
Thank you.
I'm gonna be excited for that. But yeah, like you said, I mean, so with Demi and I, with StrengthFlow, that's exactly what we've done too. As in, we try to just take the fundamental tenets of the game and kind of what makes a good video, and obviously try our best to work within that as much as we can to be authentic. Like, bro, the other day we recorded a video where I threw paint on Demi.
That's all that was
video.
Yeah.
Bro, that has no relevance in the market right now. Has no relevance. Like, it's not even directly, it wouldn't even directly correlate to potentially, getting some more clients or talking about your philosophy. It's nothing, it's really and truly, there's nothing like valuable per se. But we just wanted to do it because we felt like it was us. We're like, this is us. We want to create with Cali. We want to do something different with Cali. We want to show Cali in a different context, or calisthenics-based training, should I say, and talk, like, show what our philosophy kind of looks like, and just disrupt the market really. And we did that in our own way. And yeah, it didn't go nuts, but who cares? That's one of my favorite videos.
It's a sick video.
Recorded. Yeah.
It's so attention grabbing. Like,
yeah, but that's the thing about, like, I think in your head there's always this kind of there's always this like narrative playing in my head, which is telling me, you know what, Nick, if you guys just continue to just do what you're going to do, then things will come.
100%.
And to be fair, like, so far it has happened that way. I mean, if you go on the StrengthFlow page, we have like 3 posts there, and that's not because we've not had time to post. That's because we don't want to post anything that isn't super aligned with what we want to put out.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess, like, kind of wrapping up, what I would say is that my mindset on this now is very much like, I'm going to just be unapologetically authentic and trust that the right people will come to me, because I'm so confident in my approach and what I believe in, that my tribe will find me and they will connect with me and watch me. And people watching this who watch your channel will feel the same. I'll be like, yeah, I really resonate with what Ashton's saying. And like, automatically, just as a person, I feel close to him. And for that reason, I'm going to trust if he decides to post a video of him getting splattered with paint on the street in a handstand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's so true. And I've been thinking about this a lot, actually, and you've hit the nail on the head, because it's like, I've been thinking about this when I'm coaching. It's like, why would someone want to come to me? Why don't you go to Andrew Strong, who can already do the planche, who can already do all these crazy calisthenic skills? I'm sure Onizuka's probably coaching, like all these other guys, they're going to be coaching. Why would someone come to me? And there'll be various reasons for that. But again, like you said, your tribe will find you. And it's like, I feel like being authentic is such an important part of that, because it's like, there's only one of you. So as long as you're yourself already, you stand out from everyone else, because it's like, you are just doing what is true to you. And no one else can be you, and no one else can do what you're doing in the exact way that you're doing it. And in terms of the way that we approach things, that's why I love your approach so much, because it's so nuanced. And I love the fact that you focus on creativity as well, because again, I feel like you said, there's just a lot of guys banging out like front lever pull-ups and stuff like that, but it's like, where's the creative flair there? That's why I used to love those American guys back in the day, because like those Hannibal for King pull-ups where he's got his hands behind his back, like that was really creative. Like, no one was doing stuff like that. Like, and that is a core part of calisthenics that I really enjoy, like, and that flair. And I love that you took that into account with when you were judging with the Cali Academy and everything else. I think that's so cool. I definitely believe that people will find you and they will resonate with you because of how authentic you are being to who you are. And again, that's another reason why I've got of course, I'm a bit worried, or I was a bit worried at the start when I was thinking about this, when I was like, oh yeah, well, like, what can I offer? But I know that, especially with my content, like, again, already from the jump, people will know that I'm literally working in their best interest. I'm never going to give them anything that I believe is detrimental or I haven't really thought about, and God forbid that ever does happen, like, it's never intentional. Like, I would always make sure that it is in people's genuine best interest. And in terms of the clarity of the presentation as well, and like the way, because calisthenics is very conceptual as well. Like, it's not just all physical, it's not just brute force strength. It's like, you have to, like I said earlier, it's about making a mind muscle connection with your body and your mind and your soul, and you're like so interconnected with your body throughout that a lot of it is actually very conceptual. So, and I feel like people like us, we kind of touch on that a little bit more, like where we talk about the nuances of like how you're feeling when you're training, or what you're thinking about, the body cues, and not just like, oh yeah, protract your shoulders and all this kind of stuff. It's like, it's more than that, it's deeper than that. It's talking about the whole body, it's talking about your emotional state in the moment, and talking about even the lead up to it. Like, something I haven't spoken about on the channel yet, but I will, is even just before you even get on the bar, before you start doing pull-ups, it's like, think about, visualize what you're doing before you even do it. Because a lot of people just jump on the bar and start doing pull-ups. It's like, no, visualize it. Already think about how your back's engaging, how your scapula's moving, how your core's engaging, how your legs are. Like, make sure they're nice and straight with the rest of your body. Like, actually visualize it before. And it's like, I feel like a lot of this stuff, this is why I love your content as well, because it's like, a lot of this stuff isn't spoken about as much. It's just like, oh yeah, just get on the bar and do some pull-ups, or the maximum depth it will go to is, oh yeah, just engage your scapula and tense your abs. And it's like, no, like, there's more to it than this.
Completely. Like, this is where my passion is for calisthenics, completely, bro. Like, these flow states that no one talks about how to get into, this hyper acuity to, you know, every single muscle fiber you've got. It's not spoken about at all, man. Like, bro, the other day I was with my client, and we were speaking about the effect that the music had on the ability of her getting into a flow state, trying to balance a move. Because, as you know, balance-based moves are very meditative. You have to be super concentrated, and I've actually noticed a correlation with my mental health and my balance.
Yeah.
Like, how crazy is that, right? Like, that excites me to talk about that. It's like, that's mad. You know what I mean? But like, yeah, like, there's so many more elements to it. And bro, it's funny you talk about like kind of that, all of that combined, because like the way in my coaching with let me restart that. With my clients, a key topic that we always speak about is something called artistic intelligence, which is actually something I coined myself, which is that precision and hyper acuity to every small movement. For example, the ability to see when a handstand is slightly off and the alignment slightly off, or to feel it, to feel that something is off, to feel that flow state, weightless feeling when you are balancing, that kind of sweet spot. The way a musician can hear when a harmony is off, you know, the way an artist will notice when one stroke is too rough compared to another. Like, these small detailed things, these like observations that no one speaks about in calisthenics. When have you heard someone speak about that? Never.
I haven't.
Never, exactly, you haven't. So like, this needs attention.
Yeah.
You know, this needs like to be spoken about, because this is the beauty, like, at least like a huge part of it for me and you in our calisthenics journey is this whole element to it, this mental side that just is not spoken about at all, man. And I think for me, just to cap this off, and the moment when I really realized this was when I broke my ankle, because I bailed out in the middle of a 360, and I was halfway through doing it, and I bailed out midway, and in the air, fell straight on my ankle, triple break, and that was when I really started listening to myself more and being like, okay, this is more than just physical, because I can do the move, but obviously I should have listened to myself, which was to go home that day. Because I literally told myself, one more attempt, Nick, broke my ankle. So yeah, I think in general, just that needs just so much more attention, man. That mental side of it, seriously.
And that's the thing, because we were talking earlier about, you know, how much do you play the game? And the reason why we don't really hear many people talking about this kind of thing is because that's a very nuanced and complex kind of thing. But you can't just do that in a 3-second clip or in a hook at the start of a social media video, because people, it's so much it's not going to be the interesting thing that catches people's attention. And it's also, it requires a lot more, like, how long have we been talking about that? Like, that's a lengthy explanation, and it makes completely sense. But that's never going to go viral when you talk about that. Again, it just links back to how much do you play the game. And that's, again, why I respect what you do and the content that you make. And this is what I try to inject into my content always as well, is that it's like, I don't care. This is, again, it's about staying authentic to who you are and what you believe in and everything else, because it's like, I don't care. I'd rather make sure that people know the information that's best for them and works in their best interest and helps them get a real connection with their body and a real advantage with calisthenics over trying to do some clickbait, click farming kind of thing where I'm just like, oh, I'm going to hook you in and tell you some rubbish. Another thing that people don't really talk about in this kind of clip farming culture that we got is, and that sounds really pretentious, I feel like I'm just saying that because I'm on some podcast on this clip farming culture we've got sharp, man. But another thing that a lot of people don't talk about, again, because it won't get many clicks and it won't get, is experimentation. And again, that will be because a lot of people want to be told exactly what to do, but it will also be because, again, it doesn't really get the clicks, but that's such a key part of everything, because it's like you have to experiment to know what works best for you. What this one influencer is telling you might not work for you because you are different to them. We're talking genetically, we're talking psychologically, on every level. Like, so you have to experiment. It's a key part of calisthenics. You have to experiment and see which exercises work best for you, which time of day works best for you when you're training. Some people prefer training at night, some people prefer training in the morning. You need to experiment with your nutrition. What works best for you? Do you feel better when you're heavier? Do you feel better when you're lighter? Like, you have to experiment with all these things, even hand positioning, even things as subtle as finger positioning, hand positioning. You got to experiment to see what works best for you, because that is ultimately what will allow you to make the best progress for you.
Yeah. Bro, mate. Wow, I'm actually speechless, bro. That was unbelievable. Like, I resonate so much what you said. You hit the nail completely on the head there. Bro, people are lost within systems, man. Like, this was the script to our first ever video we posted. People are lost within structure. They're just following cookie cutter programs without even realizing it. And they don't understand why. They're just being fed information, and people are using AI for workouts. It's cooked. Yeah. Cooked. No, but bro, like, I can't tell you how much, like, I'm actually so speechless that I can't even, like, speak, mate. No, because that was like, you literally, like, that's for me, that experimentation part is it's just the most important part of all of this. The fact that, honestly, framing calisthenics as an intellectual pursuit, not just a physical pursuit. And that's the thing, it's what you said before about, even if we were to, like, someone was to post a video about this, it might not go viral. And that's because so many people don't care about fitness like that. They just want fitness, a quick 6-week shred burn. They want to get the results, jacked body. They want to go to a spinning class, that be it. But we're looking for the people who view it as an intellectual pursuit, who care about these, nuanced topics and, mental aspects, the understanding of the body. And ultimately, there just simply aren't as many people who care about that, because it takes more. Well, as we said, it's intellectual. This is what's so interesting about it. Like, we could sit here giving a 30-minute workshop on, like, just through talking. How are you going to do that in a CrossFit class? I mean, no, you can't. People just want to come and just do the exercise. So, like you said, that exploring the grey areas of movement, being curious and, like, curious to understand our bodies, and not just be fed these cookie cutter systems and programs that we are fed in mainstream fitness. Even the idea of sticking to certain sports and just training styles, just scrap all of that. Just strip it back to the foundations. Like, just experiment with your body weight, and like you said, see what you respond to, see what you enjoy. I truly believe that is what brings the most fulfillment and the most connection to your body, and also ultimately fitness as a lifestyle, not just as a temporary activity. And that's what I say to everyone I coach. This is going to be your lifestyle now. Like, get used to this. This is part of your life. This isn't just 10 minutes on the weekend. This is holistic completely. But yeah, like you said, I mean, unfortunately, some people don't care about it to that extent. So it falls on deaf ears to many, but we know the importance of it and how rewarding it is, most importantly.
Yeah, and I've just thought of this, like, if you're encouraging people to train in a way that's essentially more authentic to them, it will allow them to make better progress, but also to stick with it better as well. Because it's like, if you're following a training program that works for one person but doesn't really work for you, like, then you're going to be like, it's unsustainable. You're going to feel rubbish during it. You're going to be, like, putting your body in positions where you're like, well, this guy told me to do it like this. Really, I feel better if I do it like this, but he's telling me to do it like this, so fuck it, let me just go along with it. But then you're not enjoying it, you're not getting the most out of it. Whereas if you're actually training in a way, you're experimenting, you're seeing what works best for you, then you're training more authentically to yourself. And it will be way more sustainable and you'll get way more enjoyment out of it, way more benefits out of it. And again, I guess the responsibility with people like us who have platforms to show people how to do that, the responsibility kind of falls on us again to be able to even educate them to do that, because people won't intrinsically, maybe some people will, but people won't intrinsically know to do that. So that's why, again, I keep saying it, but I genuinely love your content so much and what you do, because it's like you bring that out of people, you make people aware of that. So do I with my content. I make people aware of that, and I emphasize the fact that you have to do these things because it will ultimately be of the most benefit to you when you do.
That is why I make the claim that this type of training is what leads to the highest sense of fulfillment. And people read that and they think, fuck, like what's bro on about? But it's got such truth to it, and you only know that once you've tried it, because like you said, if you truly know how to connect with your body properly and know yourself well, what you like, what you don't like, how you should train, what's best for you, it's impossible not to like it. It's impossible not to want to continue with it.
Yeah.
You just found the optimal way of training.
Yeah.
So like, how can you not want to continue? Like, you know your body inside out now.
It's so true. It's so true. And this is actually something that I've never even thought of until now. So I'm really glad that we've like been able to kind of like get it out of this conversation, because that's such an important part of sticking to a training program and making sure that you get the best results out of it. Because it's like in life, if you go around wearing a mask and you're pretending to be someone that you're not, it's unsustainable. In the end, you end up having a mental breakdown. In the end, you end up destroying relationships. You end up just having a miserable life because you're trying to be this person that you're not. And it's the same for training. And this is a perspective I genuinely haven't heard anyone else say. And it's like, if you're trying to train in the way that someone else trains that works for them, but it doesn't work for you, you're going to destroy yourself in the process. And so that's why, again, just to hammer it home for the 17th time, even though we've already been saying this, but it's so true. Experimentation is the key to unlocking that most authentic part of how you train and yourself, so that you can continue in the most sustainable way that's actually beneficial to you because it's authentic to you.
Yeah, and bro, you know what I think is really interesting, how this manifests in tangible exercise. Like for example, today, one example I wanted to pull just off the back of what you're saying was, one of my clients today, her hip positioning in the handstand was slightly off, and one leg was higher than the other. And obviously, you know, typically speaking, you might look at that and think, okay, no, this is off. One leg's higher than the other. That's not correct, right? And I had a long conversation, and I just explained to her, listen, like sometimes what you see as being correct is not necessarily correct for your body. And I explained very concisely how in my one-arm handstand, for example, my hips are twisted, right? That's not correct on paper, but it's how my body feels it, right? And obviously, of course, you know, it's an interesting topic because of course you can, just 6-7 there, whoopsie. I was gonna say, got cut out.
I'm leaving that in.
No, it's 6-7. I was gonna say, of course, you know, that there are limits to this. You can't be doing bad form stuff and injuring yourself, but there's just so much room to play is really the point I was trying to say. And I you know, there's many other examples, like, for example, the art of half repping and partial reps. That's something that's come into fashion now, even in the gym world. No one was doing partial reps before, you know, just banging out the stretch part of the movement at the end, just to get that extra stimulation. Now it's more normal because we're breaking the conventions, and that was typically seen as, oh, that's not correct. That's not within the linear approach of one rep at a time. But guess what? You can work outside the box and experiment, and there's more to be found. And, you know, these gym heads have just discovered partial reps. Wait until they get to calisthenics. Wait until you try some scapular engagement and you explore how deep your scapula can protract and retract, and all the movement ranges you have and the control. Like, oh my gosh, it's like these partial reps thing are like a whole new revelation. It's like, poo, like, man, it's like, mate, like come to Cali, you know? Like, then we'll talk about, you know, positioning and, you know, micro movements if you really want to go down that route. But yeah, anyways, really interesting stuff on the experimentation. I think, yeah, everyone needs to experiment a bit more.
100%. We'll take it down because we've been very elevated. We've been talking about some very deep stuff, which is great. Like, it's so good. And that's exactly why I wanted you on, because I know you are a very deep thinker and you think about this, literally the precise reason why I wanted you on, because you think about the things that a lot of calisthenics guys don't think about.
Likewise.
And thank you. And people watching, it's going to give them a whole new perspective and a whole new insight. But to bring it back down to kind of like some more general kind of stuff, what are the top 3 pieces of advice you would give for someone starting calisthenics in 2026?
So the first one would definitely be start with fundamentals. So there are some fundamental movements in Cali, push and pull being the main ones. Legs if you want to include it, but optional.
Nah, you better include legs, bro. You better. I love Nick, and what he's telling you is actual, genuine, incredible advice. He is a literal calisthenics champion, but you got to do legs as well.
To be fair, I love legs training, I can't lie. I do legs once a week. But yeah, I would definitely say work on the main movements. So in calisthenics, there are 3 main movement patterns or areas of movement: push, pull, legs. Within those, so in push, there's horizontal pushing and vertical pushing. Same for pull, horizontal and vertical pulling. Explore those. So, pull-ups, dips, push-ups, and rows as the 4 main movements, and some leg training as well, like some bodyweight air squats, jump squats. Get good at those exercises. That's the number one thing I would say. And once you are good at those, you can then learn to explore other stuff, and you have the foundations to actually explore some skills, So that's definitely the first piece of advice I would say, most important. The second piece of advice, quite a simple one, it would just be to stay consistent, because as we've mentioned many times in this podcast.
Podcast, same thing.
Yeah. As we mentioned many times in this podcast, calisthenics can really throw you off in terms of the progress, and it's not linear by any means at many points. So yeah, just stay consistent. And the third piece of advice would, linking into this conversation, would be, it's twofold. It's to explore and have fun, because the whole kind of beauty of calisthenics, just to ram it home, is that creativity and seeing what you're capable of, seeing what you resonate with. There's so much to explore. There's so many avenues. Just to name a few, if you're looking into some street lifting, bodyweight endurance, freestyle calisthenics, P-bar flow, that's one that's not really talked about enough in my opinion. But yeah, so many different avenues. Explore those, see what you enjoy, and yeah, you won't have any trouble. Keep training and staying consistent.
And if someone is, because obviously we encounter a lot of people who are new to calisthenics and a lot of beginners. If someone is struggling even with the basics, like the push-ups, the pull-ups, the dips, how can they build up the strength so that they can master those fundamentals?
Yep, so this again a huge misconception. So no one is too weak for calisthenics in my opinion. The whole beauty of calisthenics is it's progression based. So there's always a regression and a progression for every move you do. So if you can't do push-ups, what you can try and do is a negative push-up. If you can't do negative push-up, you can try a knee push-up. If you can't do push-ups on your knees, you can try a negative knee push-up. If you can't do that, then you can try just a hold at the top of a knee push-up. But everyone, I'm pretty sure, can do a negative knee push-up, because yeah, that's a pretty accessible movement. So that's what I'd say. I would say firstly, let's demystify this idea that calisthenics is not accessible to anyone. No one is too weak to start, and it's just about exploring how to actually access these movements in the right way. And you can find a lot of info on Ashton's channel. Obviously, you've got loads of tutorials. But yeah, you can also message other people who do the sport and have a little research. But yeah, every movement has a starting place.
100% agree. And actually, funnily enough, you said you can get in contact with other people. One thing that I'd really recommend for beginners as well, again, this is another thing, if I was like purely self-motivated and self-interest, this is actually bad advice for my own channel and my own career, because what I'm about to tell you to do is you should actually not just watch me, not just watch Nick, of course, watch Nick, but at the same time, watch other people, like see what they're doing, like seriously, because it's going to be beneficial for you to get a collective and well-rounded view on calisthenics. And even if you're learning a certain skill, of course, I got loads of tutorials for the front lever on my channel, but I will always say to a beginner, go and watch other tutorials, go and watch other people. Technically, if I was like one of these ruthless-minded business people, whatever, I'd never say that, because that's technically taking away business from me and from my channel. But I don't care, because I actually operate in your best interest. I want you to succeed with calisthenics. I want you to become the best version of yourself. So part of that is going to other people as well, seeing how they explain things. Things might click the way that they explain it. They might explain it better. I am very good at explaining calisthenics concepts and everything else, but there might be some one thing that someone else says, and that might trigger it for you. Like, for example, when I was learning the front lever, I watched a Frank Medrano video. He was the only one to mention squeezing your glutes. The only one. I'd watched in fact, I probably at the time had watched all the front lever tutorials on YouTube. Like, this was way back when. And he was the only one to say squeeze your glutes. That clicked it into place. I will never forget, because I had a dream that following night and I was squeezing my glutes in the front lever and I was like, raw, this feels sick. Like, it revolutionized the thing. And then the next day I tried it and it made it so much easier because it just engages that lower chain. Like, it's just so sick. Like, squeezing your glutes is such a fundamental part. A lot of people don't even, like, nowadays when you see on TikTok and all these, like, no one really mentions even that. So it's like, but that clicked for me. Like, I just happened to watch his video. So I would recommend for all beginners as well, just to diversify your calisthenics knowledge. Don't just follow one person's opinion, because again, that's part of the experimentation as well. That's part of it. It's like you're experimenting with different approaches, different opinions, different methods, different ways of training, and it all comes together to form your most authentic way of training.
So bro, just to add to that, so Debbie and I speak a lot about training like an artist. I'm sure you've seen that like plastered over my pages, right? But the whole idea of that, to link in with this, is about gathering as much inspiration as possible, because before you can train like an artist, you have to think like an artist, right? So you need to gather as much as you can and use that to actually feel inspired, to be able to have something to work off of. And so it's funny, because when I'm coaching people, we try our best to bring in as many influences as possible. And that's why dance informed the StrengthFlow training, because it brought in a whole different sector of movement. And I'd encourage anyone here, honestly, not just to explore calisthenics, like go and explore capoeira, go and explore, like, you know, different forms of movement and see what floats your boat. Pick and choose what you want, because that's the thing. In calisthenics, there's a lot of pressure to conform to the right way to train. You know, if you have to, for example, this idea of completion, if you're a push athlete, you need to be balanced on pull, and people ask you, okay, but how's your pull? So you need to be able to do levers and planches. Guess what? I don't give a shit about that. I just do what I want. Luckily, I'm decent at both, but I prefer push. So I only train weighted dips, as in I don't train weighted pull-ups. Do I care? No. Do the Cali athletes care? Yeah. They ask me, okay, but how's your pull? Mate, I'm not in that box, bro. Sorry. So yeah, on that topic of experimentation, definitely think like an artist. Go find inspiration and resensitize yourself to the world, so that you can actually feel and know truly what you enjoy, instead of just consuming the expectations of other people. Because oftentimes you don't even know yourself what you actually do like until you really sit yourself down and take everything away and genuinely ask, okay, what actually do I like? And even then, you still might be answering through a lens. So
bars. This will be the second to last question, just to wrap things up. A lot of calisthenics skills are a lot more accessible. You see a lot of guys in the gym now who don't even do calisthenics, they're doing muscle ups. And this can be described as skillflation. And a lot of people nowadays, like, you would never see guys doing planche on their 2 fingers back in the day. And now it's like so many guys online can do it. So many guys can clean out perfect form front lever pull-ups and planche push-ups and everything else. So skillflation is definitely a thing. How do you feel skillflation has affected calisthenics?
Firstly, I'm not sure if I agree about skillflation.
Oh, really?
But yeah, okay. So I'll touch on that just to begin with, because personally, what I've always valued more than the actual skill itself is the way it's done. So the people I used to look up to when I was starting Cali were the people who would do skills in a very effortless way. And there's a word that really hits close to home that I always hold true to the way I want to train, it's called sprezzatura. It's a great word. You should look it up. Right?
What a blood clot you're talking about, man. What is that?
It's called sprezzatura. It's a banging word, and it's the art of doing something effortlessly, right? And that's what I always think about as a word when I think about calisthenics and my ideal vision of me doing something. So to be fair, like, this idea of skillflation, like, it kind of doesn't get to me, almost because I don't really see it as a valid thing, because people are doing messy muscle ups and stuff and doing messy moves. And I get what you're saying about the beginner stuff, but for me, there's a huge difference at least from my perspective, I can see a huge difference between people who are seasoned in the sport and have refined their moves compared to the beginners who've just got their first muscle up. So yeah, I don't really care much about that. And yeah, again, you know, my idea of progress, to be fair, these days is much less metric and move based and more kind of like feeling and like artistic based. Not that I'm saying I don't care about high performance, but I'm not too bothered about the general level of strength increasing. I don't think it's an issue. Does that answer your question or as such?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I feel like, okay, nuanced opinion.
Yeah.
So I feel like in some respects, again, as I said earlier, the skillflation, because I do believe there has been skillflation, and I'll explain why.
Go on, yeah.
I feel like, obviously, there are so many guys doing all of these crazy high performance calisthenics skills now. And what that has done is that it's shifted the perception of what's deemed a beginner calisthenic skill and what's deemed an advanced calisthenic skill. Rightly so, because of course, with the evolution of calisthenics, that's going to happen naturally as a consequence anyway. But I saw someone refer to, and to be fair, this was an advanced guy. I saw an advanced guy on Instagram the other day refer to the bent arm handstand press as a beginner skill, which it's not. It is for an advanced person, but in the grand scheme of just people's physical strength in the world, just living in reality, take away Instagram, the bent arm handstand press, I'm talking like going from an L sit into a bent arm press and then pushing up into the handstand, that's actually quite an advanced skill. Like, especially in the grand scheme of strength. When is the last time you saw someone on the street doing that? You haven't, because you've only seen that from guys who are actually very strong at calisthenics. You ain't seen no one in the gym do that. So, but for that to be deemed as kind of like a mid, or almost, depending on who you are, a mid to beginner calisthenics skill, like I definitely feel like there has been, because that was never seen at the beginning of calisthenics, that was like a top tier skill. And like I said, of course, the sport is going to evolve and grow. And of course, you can't always compare with the past and everything else, because that's like saying, oh yeah, but a flipping one of those old banger Fords from back in the day, like is no match for a Lamborghini today. And it's like, well, of course, like because the technology of cars has progressed so much. But at the same time, yeah, I feel like it's kind of, there is a bit of skillflation that's kind of warped people's perception of what's good and what isn't, and what's desirable and what isn't, what's attractive, what isn't. So I definitely feel there is that element to it as well. But then again, it's like, but then because of the skill inflation, like you see all these guys like doing like planches on their fingertips, and if you're new to the sport, then you're going to think that's sick and you're going to want to get into it. So then there's benefits to it as well. So I don't think it's evil, and I don't think it's particularly good. I just think there's like everything, there's nuance to it.
Very interesting take, bro. I mean, because I would disagree. I would say that, as in, if we're claiming that it does exist, then I would say, because I'm not actually immersed too much in that world. That's why I'm saying I'm not sure. Because to be fair, I don't get much content on my page, or I don't hear much about people claiming that moves are advanced and whatnot. But what I can definitely agree with is that people the standards are higher as well. I mean, I lived in France for a year. And let me just say this French community, because of this hyper individualism too that's going on, everyone's super competitive in their zones, headphones on. I'm not saying it's not good for the community. I'm just saying that it didn't have the same feeling to it. And everyone was like, you'd see someone do full planche and no one would bat an eye. No one would bat an eye. And I think that for me, like I would say that it's frustrating only because it can again feed into this myth that calisthenics is inaccessible, and again paint this picture of Cali that I personally, I'm not trying to paint myself.
That's my problem with the skillflation. That is the core of the problem.
I mean, people think like, of course, when you see this stuff and people aren't happy and trying to claim that this is, an advanced move, I can completely understand how that can deter people from thinking that they can do it. Of course. So yeah, that's not good. And I'm happy I'm not actually immersed in that noise, because it doesn't sound too nice. But yeah, if it is as prevalent as you say it is, then I would definitely say, yeah, it's not a good thing.
To be fair, the skillflation is prevalent, but that kind of opinion is not very prevalent. That's just that's to be honest, I've seen it a couple times on social media, but it's not like the prevailing opinion.
As in the opinion that
the opinion that like a bent arm handstand press is like a beginner skill.
I've seen it a couple times. Yeah. I mean, that could also be some guy just trying to get some clicks. Say something controversial, do anything he can.
That's true. That's very true.
I'm not sure. I mean,
could be a bot.
Could be a bot, man.
Could be a bot.
Bro, it's a tough one.
There will be a lot of beginners watching this, and there'll be a lot of intermediate and maybe some advanced calisthenics athletes watching this as well. What encouragement can you give them going into 2026 to encourage them to keep on their training and do the best that they can?
The encouragement I would give, so anyone watching this, would be, talking from experience, to just stay true to what you want to do. And as I've mentioned in the podcast earlier, just be unapologetically authentic, and your tribe will find you, your people will find you, you'll make a name for yourself if that's what you're trying to do. I think that applies to anyone of any level. If you think you can do calisthenics, then give it a try. If you want to switch disciplines, do it. For 2026, the motto should be, I think, autonomy. Just being more conscious of decisions and why you're doing certain things. What are you feeding into your system? And questioning everything. Yeah, questioning, experimenting. That's what I think 2026 should be about. What about you?
Good question. I want to actually think about this before I answer the question.
Yeah, it's a tough one to do off the bat, isn't it?
It is, but I want to make sure that it's actually genuine rather than me saying what I think I should say in this scenario.
Mm-hmm. See, it's so tough to always come back to that, you know. Sometimes we don't even know if we really mean what we're saying. You know?
Well, that's the thing, because I don't want to, because it's so easy to fall into the trap of, okay, well, I've heard this person say this online, so, I guess maybe that's what I should regurgitate. That sounded profound when they said it, so maybe I should regurgitate. And this is part of kind of linking back to what we were talking about earlier, talking about kind of, in my eyes, I see it as ethical influencing, which sounds so pretentious.
I love that, bro. I love that, bro. I think that's unreal. That's super relevant.
But it's genuinely something I think about all the time. And whenever I say anything, I want to make sure that it is in people's best interest. So I would say, in terms of encouragement, just stay as consistent as you can and do what you can do to stay consistent. Because a lot of the time, like we've already discussed, you will hear advice from people online and you'll hear all these influencers telling you to do this, or you'll hear friends and colleagues telling you to do that. Do what works best for you and continue to experiment, continue to train in a way that's true and authentic to you. This is a really important topic of discussion that we've actually just brought up in this, but this is so true and something that I will actually carry through in my messaging from now on. This is seriously, I'm so glad that we've actually touched on this, because this is training in a way that's authentic to you is genuinely, that is the key. That is the key, because then you'll stay consistent, especially with calisthenics. That's so important. The consistency is everything. You're not going to unlock the skills that you want to unlock unless you're consistent. You're not going to make the progress that you want to make unless you're consistent. And to stay consistent, the best way to do that is to train in the best way for you and do things that work for you. Again, experiment with your diet, experiment with your training, experiment with your sleep, experiment with everything that goes into facilitating your training so that you can get the most out of it. Because again, you will get so much of a richer experience out of that, and that will encourage and motivate you along your journey anyway. So that's how I would say, that's how I offer my encouragement to you. Just train in a way that's authentic to you. Listen to your body as always as well. Again, another one that a lot of people don't really mention, but always listen to your body. And just stay consistent. And also, in terms of motivations come and go. I struggle with motivation sometimes. I know that obviously I'm on YouTube and I'm here motivating you, but a lot of the time I struggle with motivation. And you hear a lot of people online, they'll talk about, I feel like everyone wants to portray a very clean-cut image of themselves. And they want to say, oh, well, my motivations, they're implying that their motivations are always righteous. And they're always oh, well, I just want to do this for me. And, I just want to, but at the same time, there are things that will motivate you that maybe are not as pretty as that. You might have had a breakup and now you just want to get back at your ex and that's motivating you. Fine. If that's motivating you, do you want to get back at your ex by getting a better physique or learning some sick calisthenics skills? That's fine. If you want to do that, or if you want to, I know it's not the purest source of motivation, but it will get you on a better track than spiraling off in some other direction where you're oh, well, I'm just going to eat my life away now and get all fat and whatever. Or you might be frustrated with your work situation, because work can be super frustrating, working a 9 to 5. I know some people watching this will be working a 9 to 5. They don't enjoy it. hated my 9 to 5. You can use that as fuel. Like the anger that you get from your manager just trying to fucking buoy you off or chat shit to you. Take that to the calisthenics park, take that to the gym, murk the weights with that energy. Like, and at least you've then alchemized it into something positive that will actually build you up rather than something that will, like, rather than taking it out on yourself or self-destructing in other ways. So that's another way that I'd encourage you at home to stay on track as well. Use any type of motivation you can get, because ultimately you are alchemizing it into something that's more beneficial to you rather than just like spiraling off in another direction. And I know this isn't the clean cut, like, kumbaya influencer message that a lot of people would want to hear or sounds great. That's why I said I wanted to think about this question before I answered it, because I know what I should say, but is that really true to who I am? Because I've alchemized that annoyance and that frustration and that rage multiple times. Like, some of the hardest training sessions I ever got in were when I was the most depressed, because I was just so frustrated with everything. But it was that rage, I channeled it into the exercises. I got in the most shredded shape I've ever been. I got in the most, like, I was banging out so many reps, hundreds and hundreds of reps. Like, I got in phenomenal physical shape. So yeah, use any type of motivation you can get. Obviously, don't dwell, if you're in that negative headspace and everything, don't dwell in that. Just use it as a vehicle to get yourself out of it by doing something more positive and constructive, and then that will help to lift you out of that as well. So that's my advice, that's my encouragement. And yeah, I think that's how I'll wrap it up. Do you have any final, do you want to shout out your socials?
Yes, I do. Nic.blue is my Instagram. StrengthFlow Training is my coaching. And the Cali Academy is my youth organization.
Jeez. Man, like, Nick, it's been a pleasure, bro. Absolute pleasure.
I loved it, man.
Yeah.
So many good conversations.
Yeah, trust me. Yeah,
Crazy
man,
stuff.
I've really enjoyed it. We definitely touched some very unique and nuanced topics, and I'm really excited just to get it out there and have other people listen to it, because yeah, you've got a very insightful mind, man. So
thank you, bro.
Super glad to have you on.
You too.
Thank you, bro. Yeah. Smashed it. Cheese, man, like.
So good, bro.
So, first question, so that the guys can get used to. No, that's just shit. But that's good, because it's the balance again, because we have been going very deep. Pause.
It's probably still gonna get deep for knowing us, mate.
Double pause for that one.